Coming up, I'll tell you about a big audio description fail, and it's all on me. Stick with me.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the iCantCU podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of iCantCU, your window into a world where blindness doesn't dictate ability. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really do appreciate you joining me for this episode, and today I'm going to talk about audio description fails. And I've got two to talk about. One is on me, one is just unbelievable. Let me tell you about the one about me first. Recently, I went down to the National Federation of the Blind National Center in Baltimore to learn about doing IEPs. They're the individualized education plans that folks do for students with disabilities. In our case, we want to fight and learn how to fight for kids who are blind and visually impaired so they can learn Braille and they get this necessary training so that they can accomplish everything that the other kids can accomplish. If they're doing book reports, we want them to be able to read the books. And I know you're saying, well, they could listen to the books, but maybe not. How are you going to learn grammar while you're listening to a book? How are you going to learn how to write while trying to listen to something? You've got to learn Braille. If you're blind, you've got to learn Braille. I wish I knew Braille. I don't think I'd be able to read it at this point because of the way my hands are, but that's beside the point. So I was in Baltimore, and it was a jam-packed 3 days or so of information. It was packed, and it ended on a Saturday night after going through and doing mock IEPs and had various folks from within the NFB National Organization playing parts. A kid's mother and a school district employee that was in charge of the IEP program. I mean, just some of it is unreal. And it made me think of when Jacob was in high school, 3 weeks before his senior year, he was told he wasn't going to be able to go back to Westtown School due to an illness. And we said, wait a second, why? How can you exclude him for that? Well, we're a private school, we're a religious school, blah, blah, blah. He ended up going for 1 year to another school, not a public school, but to a different school. And again, it was a private, Westtown is private, and we were shocked. And as I'm going through this stuff down in Baltimore, I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to stay calm and not mess up a kid's chances? Because I don't want them to dig their heels in and say, hey, he can't have this, 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 and this just because you want him to or you want her to. It is just mind-boggling, the stuff that goes on at these meetings. And if you have a child that needs services and has different ways of learning, you probably know what I'm talking about. While I was down there, I thought I'd do this weekly episode on the NFB of Pennsylvania's YouTube channel called Federation Focus. And it talks about the different meetings that are coming up, fundraisers that are going on, and so forth. Well, I thought it would be good for one of these episodes to show what things are like down there at the National Center, not the conference rooms and things like that, but they have a brand new section. And it's not that new at this. Now I'm starting to sound like my dad. When I was a kid, and even when I had the West Coast video, my dad would say, oh, that building's new. I'm like, Dad, that building's been there for 20 years. Yeah, well, that's new. Yeah, sure. He was 70 or 80 years old. It seemed new to him. This was under construction when I had stayed at the National Center back in, I guess, 2019. And it opened, I don't remember when they told me, 2020, 2021, things, somewhere around there. I showed, a couple episodes ago, I showed you the area, but I hadn't shown the area to folks at Federation Focus. So I shot all new footage. I talked to a couple of the ladies that work there. And when you go to events there, these learning events, these seminars, you are fed 5 times a day. I'm not kidding. 5 times a day. There's breakfast. There's a mid-morning snack, which always has these delicious cookies. Then there's lunch. Then there's a mid-afternoon snack, again with the cookies and popcorn and mixed nuts and so forth. And I showed you the iced tea container, which I had, I don't know how many gallons of that I had, unsweetened, but I still had a lot. And then dinner, of course. And it's always open. So I, at 1 a.m, could go over there, and I did, to get some iced tea if I was thirsty. So I showed the dining hall area. I showed some of the casual areas. There's a place with the fireplace. There's an area, it almost feels like a college dorm, where there is a common area around within the sleeping rooms. And so I shot a video. I took my GoPro down, and thank God it worked right. I couldn't believe it. It worked the whole time I was down there. And I'll leave a link in the show notes and description so you can go check that video out. Here's the problem. I process every audio or video that I publish. I use Auphonic, and I am not an affiliate for it. But I love them. I met them at Podcast Movement down in Washington last summer. I was using it long before that, but I absolutely love it. It is the best thing that I found so far. I know I edit everything in Descript. In fact, I'm recording this video in Descript right now, and I am an affiliate for that. There'll be a link in the show notes if you want to check that out. Descript does so many things. It is just amazing, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So I did this video, and I first had someone take a look. One of the girls from the dining hall, I said, hey, could somebody check out just to make sure looks like everything is good to go with, I'm in the center of the frame. I'm not cutting off my head and part of my head. And once she told me I looked good, I knew that I just left it at that height, the tripod at that height, and I just carried the tripod and the camera. I mean, the camera's a little tiny thing, smaller than this microphone that I'm standing in front of right now. So I knew that if I did that, I'd be able to, as long as I was standing in the center of the frame, which I don't know that I always was. But most of the folks that watch Federation Focus, and they told me, oh, it doesn't, we were listening. We listened to it. We can't see you. And this is where the main problem is. So I shot in the dining hall and in the area where that game was called Powerball, I think it's called. Then there's a little kitchen area in there where I washed my mug every night or every morning. And I also went in and showed the sleeping room that I had. I was in room number 11 this time. Last time I was in number 10. But I didn't do the voiceover as I was shooting it. I did the voiceover after I came back, and I had edited the footage to have exactly what I wanted. And I did the voiceover when I was walking through the room, and I explained everything, again, because most of the folks that listen or watch Federation Focus, and I don't put it out as a podcast, most of those folks are just listening. So I thought, I've got to make sure the audio description is great because they can't see what I'm doing. And I was pretty careful to make sure that when there were quiet times, I used it. Here's the problem. When I was playing that game Powerball, or showing that game Powerball, the ball has a bell and some other things in it, so it makes noise. So I shot it, and you could hear it going down the other end of the table, and you could hear that it didn't go in the goal, and you could hear it coming back down. But when I processed it, as great as Auphonic is, it took it out. Now, it also made me sound fantastic because I was just using the shotgun mic, and I'll have a link down below so you can see which one it is. It's in the gear down below. The ceilings are really high. There are other people talking in the areas, maybe not in that area, but I was 2 or 3 feet from the camera and microphone. So when I listened to it, it sounded great, except it took that out. It also took out when I had placed the camera down and I was showing how you get into the sleeping room area. And you need a key card to get in, just like you need a key card to get in your room. So you swipe your key card right near these doors, and you could hear the doors open. It makes a beep sound, and then the doors open, and you could hear that. Well, again, when I used Auphonic, it took those sounds out. You couldn't hear the doors opening. So there's probably 5 to 10 seconds there. People who are blind have no idea what I was doing. And when I was doing the Powerball game, people had no idea what was going on. And so that was a huge fail on my part for not picking up on that and maybe saying one or two things just to let folks know, especially with the Powerball game, just to let folks know what I was doing at the time. And I felt terrible because they had no idea, and I could have fixed that. It was just a couple of words I needed to say. Here, I shot the ball down, and I'm waiting for it to come back. But again, when I edited it and I'm looking at it, I could still hear all that stuff because the processing is the last thing that I do. And so there was no audio description there. So there's a couple of chunks of time, and again, probably between 5 and 10 seconds each. I didn't go back and watch it to see. Again, the link for that episode of Federation Focus will be below, and you can go check that out. The other audio description fail is probably worse. There was an OVR meeting in Harrisburg on June 10th. And one of the presenters is a company that provides services to folks who are disabled. Whether you're blind or you've got some other issue, they can help you, whether it's learning skills or getting you interviews. In fact, when I had a contract with the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services, they put me with this company, and I actually went on a couple of job interviews. Not quite sure why, but it was before I thought I'd want to get into the BEP, which is a whole other story, of course. They played a video, and I didn't go to Harrisburg. I watched online and listened online. They played a video. I have no idea what was on it. It was just music. I don't know if they were just showing pictures. I don't know if there were graphics. I kind of think it was a combination of both images and text. But it was just music playing. And I know I've complained about that before, but I've complained about that before from a general public sort of situation where their entire all the folks viewing this video or at this meeting, they've got some sort of disability. Again, I know they're not blind, but I was, Lynn was, or is. And there may have been one or two other folks who were watching, whether on the Zoom or in the meeting. And I said to Lynn after I had started to text her, and I said, "Do you have any idea what was in that video?" And as I'm texting her, she called me. She was there in person. And the whole meeting, it was roughly 4 or 5 hours. The whole meeting, they mentioned blind a handful of times. And I know the person who presented for CIS had no idea that she was even doing what she was doing, slighting the blind community by not having any kind of audio description. Again, I have no idea what was going on in that video. She played 2 videos. The next video she played did have some stretches where it had music, but it also had an interview with one of their clients and the client's mother. And it was a very nice interview. But again, I don't know what was in between when they were speaking from when they stopped speaking to the 10 or 20 seconds of music to when they were speaking again. I have no idea what was going on. So 2 audio description fails. One was really on me. And I felt terrible. Check out the video. I'll link it below. And the video is Federation Focus, by the way. I started in March after I was down at the NFB National Center for a leadership seminar. I started it then, so I don't know how many episodes. I don't know, 15, 20, I don't know. However many weeks there was since St. Patrick's Day. However many Mondays from St. Patrick's Day to this Monday, the 16th. That's how many episodes I've done because I haven't missed a week. And I don't know, 10, 15, 20, I don't know. However many weeks it is. I guess it's not 20. But go check that out. I don't have a link. I'll take a look around. If I could find the link to that video that CIS showed, I will put the link there as well because I'm pretty sure it was on YouTube. I think she said it was on YouTube. So I'll take a look. But huge, huge misstep because your company, your organization is there to serve disabled people. not just people in wheelchairs or ones that may have cognitive issues. Blind people are disabled too. But we're always the last one that gets thought of when it comes to any kind of services. We've gone to meetings where Lynn had asked for a Braille agenda, didn't have any. It's almost like we don't exist. They're there to help disabled people, except for blind people. Most of the times at this meeting, when they talked about blindness, it was deafblind. But just a huge misstep on CIS's part, and just an error on my part that I didn't think ahead. Hey, there might not be sound on this because the processing at Auphonic is so good, it may take it out. I mean, it's taken out the birds chirping when I have an episode of White Canes Connect going, processing there. Lisa has a very loud birds outside her window that it is awesome when you're listening as we're recording the episode. But then after it's processed, it's like, poof, the birds are gone. I mean, again, it's great. And it makes, my friend Brian had sent me an interview he had done, I think it was at CSUN last year, outside on a super windy day. And one of the people didn't have a mic. So the other person next to him's mic had to pick him up. And it sounded like they were all in a studio. It was incredible. But in my case, Federation Focus, whatever week that was, and again, I'll put the link below, just took everything out, which it's supposed to do, but it kind of messed me up in this one. So I've got to be cognitive of that when doing other videos to make sure, hey, there's a lot of time here where maybe if there's no other sounds, people aren't going to know what's going on. So I've got to remember that. I don't know what to do about CIS. I don't know if it's a shame because the girl really seemed passionate about what she was doing. She seemed very nice and kind. So I hate to go to somebody and say, hey, look, I guess that video was great. I have no idea what it was. The music sounded nice, but I don't know what was on it. What do I do? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below and let me know. Or you can always shoot me an email, iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com, and tell me what you think I should do. I don't know what to do. I seriously don't. And I just think it's a misstep. It's something that people dismiss blind folks all the time. I was reading something on Facebook today where a lot of companies love to have a panel with a blind person on it, but when that same blind person who seems very well put together and educated, they won't give them the time of day if they're applying for a job there, but they put them on a panel so they say, hey, look, we have a blind person here. So that is something that, again, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what you're thinking on that. Lisa and I just dropped episode 137 of White Canes Connect. We spoke to John Bergram. He is with the NFB National Organization, and he is in charge of the convention, the national convention, which is a huge undertaking. There is roughly going to be between 2,500 and 3,000 folks in New Orleans in a few weeks. I'll be one of them. Liz will be there as well. So I'll have some, I'm sure I'll have some great B-roll and some great footage and a lot of great things to tell you about New Orleans when we're there. But we talked to him about the convention, how it's planned, how everybody at the national organization, so many folks do so many different things. And it was evident when I was there for the IEP Advocacy Academy, where folks who Stephanie from the communications department, in fact, she's director of communications, she was there to take part in one of the mock IEP meetings. John Pare, who is the legislative person, he was there. So many folks are there, and so many folks do so many different things. I mean, completely different. The folks who work in the dining hall also do other logistics and things like that. They're going to New Orleans. So just everybody doubles up, and it's just so interesting. And he also talks about some previous conventions and talks about upcoming conventions in Austin in next year and the following year, in Chicago a couple years after that. So it's a great interview. And so I'm laughing because John said that when we told him the episode was out, he said, yeah, that's what I really want to do is listen to my voice. Again, his voice is not bad. Listen to him. After processing, everybody sounds great. Everybody sounds fine. And sometimes some people have a thing for listening to their voices. Episode 137. One other thing I wanted to mention about White Canes Connect. Someone who used to be on the affiliate board, that's the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania board, said, she told another board member, that show is boring. It's not doing anything. It's losing listeners and whatnot. I don't know how she thinks she knows that. But we are now listed on 2 top 100 blind and visually impaired best podcasts. millionpodcasts.com just ranked us number 31. And Feed Spot has us ranked at number 14. We were as good as number 12, but both of them have a ton of great podcasts on there. So I will put a link down in the description and show notes so you can check out those lists. That Real Blind Tech Show is ranked number 22 on the Million Podcasts list. I was on the most recent episode of That Real Blind Tech Show, and we talked about WWDC, the Apple Developers Conference that took place out in California last week. We talk about all sorts of new things coming to the iPhone and Mac and Watch and iPad and all their different naming conventions and how the liquid glass is going to be a nightmare for folks with low vision and for folks who are not as tech savvy, where they're saying, why am I seeing something below what I think is a button? I'm telling you, this is going to be trash. It is going to be a nightmare for a lot of folks. We also talk about some of the new things in accessibility that are supposedly coming to the iPhone. And I say supposedly because they always announce a lot of things and they don't always deliver. So I'll put a link to that episode in the show notes and descriptions. So check out That Real Blind Tech Show with Brian Fischler, Janine Stanley, Allison Malloy, and me. I'm a fill-in host. Ed was not available that night, so I sat in for him. It's always a lot of fun. It's a very different type of podcast. So it gives you a lot of great tech news, but it also is funny and it makes you laugh. So go check it out. Again, link will be down below and in the show notes. As far as show notes go, check out the show notes to this episode over on the website, iCantCU.com/286, iCantCU.com/286, numerically speaking. And remember, iCantCU sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 characters long. iCantCU.com/286. As always, please reach out, questions, comments, show ideas, and remember, anything you've got, you can shoot me an email, iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com, iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. You can also call me, which I would love to get any kind of feedback, anything you've got. Please give me a call, 646-926-6350. You've got up to 3 minutes. Please leave your name and town if you do leave a voicemail. And more than likely, I will play it on an upcoming episode. Again, 646-926-6350. Please reach out on the socials at David Benj, Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook, any of them. Please reach out, LinkedIn, connect with me over there. I would love to connect with you on the social, shoot me an email. However you want to contact me, please do so. I'd love to hear from you. That'll do it for this episode of iCantCU. I appreciate you joining me. Be well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the iCantCU podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.